don't really like doing household chores, especially when it comes to the yucky ones like doing the garbage or, something along the lines like that, hand washing the dishes. But if there's one thing or one chore that I like to do, it's probably sweeping. And that's the same thing for the New York Mets as they swept the Pittsburgh Pirates in a 3-game series at Citi Field. Welcome to the Queen's Connection, episode 5. We can call it the David Wright episode of the series, a production of Patton Sports Creative. I am your host, Andrew Patton, very groggy this morning as I got no sleep thanks to my dog. So hopefully my co-host today is well rested, or at least capable of potentially carrying me, as he is already got, he's already patted himself on the back for his series predicting this series sweep. So hopefully there's room for me to jump on his back and he could carry me through this episode. That would be Corne Hogeveen. Corne, good afternoon for you. Good morning here. So do you want to take your victory lap, Mr. Nostradamus?
I can say that we don't have proof. So I said it, the sweep. Uh, yeah, a little bit of positives for our Mets. We had a positive feeling after winning 3 series in a row. And the Pittsburgh Pirates just didn't seem like a team that I was that worried about, unlike the Royals and Reds and obviously the Braves. So went for the sweep. I mean, it obviously took the series win, but yeah, good that my correct prediction came true. And for carrying this podcast, yes, it's what I've done since we started this. So yeah, it's nothing new for me. I will try to do it yet again after you didn't get your beauty sleep in this night.
And I need a lot of beauty sleep, if you know. So, but
Great opening, by the way.
oh,
That
thank you.
was tremendous.
That's probably the most creative thing I'll come up with today. So let's waste no more time. Let's jump right into this. The Mets are coming into this series of the Pirates after taking 2 of 3 from the Kansas City Royals, and a lot of positivity around the team, as evident by you showcasing how much you believed in this team with a sweep. And game one of this series on Jackie Robinson Day, it started off as a bit of a pitcher's duel between some soft tossers of Martin Perez for the Pirates, who was coming in and having a really good year so far, against Adrian Hauser, who was looking to bounce back after that rough start, against the Milwaukee Brewers, the Atlanta Braves. See, there's one mistake already. One mistake already, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more coming. But Hauser, you were texting me because I was at the game, and I could kind of see what you were talking about with his movement of the pitches was a lot more effective than compared to that game against the Atlanta Braves. And now at Citi Field on what they think they call the ribbon scoreboards, they do the pitch break, on the y axis, the x axis, whatever. I don't do math, but they were showing the pitch break, and I think there was one pitch on his sinker that had like 15 inches of drop, whatever axis that is. So obviously the sinker was moving, and even watching the game back, you could see really against left-handed pitcher or left-handed batters, that sinker was almost kind of having a running action away. So obviously the sinker was a little bit maybe more effective in this outing compared to his last, but also might have contributed to why he had 5 walks in this game as well.
Yeah, I mentioned it when we texted that his ball was moving a lot more, and I said that in the last podcast about his sinker against the Braves, that I thought it was fairly flat, and this time it wasn't. Um, I looked at it, I saw it, and then I checked the spin rates that were up for him, up also against the norm of last year. So yeah, it was a genuine question that I asked you. Maybe with his spin rates being up a tick more than normal, maybe that was part of his uh, walk issue. Because yeah, when the ball moves a lot more, maybe you can't control it as well um, as you normally do. So that was an interesting point to see. But overall, I think besides the walks, he was very good. He got a lot of ground balls, hit 95 on the gun, which for sinker baller is, I mean, pretty neat. If you have that on your four seamer in your back pocket, I think that's more than enough. And he pitched well. Yes, 5 walks. You said right.
Yeah. So the final line for Hauser was 5 in the third, 2 hits, 2 runs, which were both earned, 5 strikeouts, but also the 5 walks. So like you said, no, the walks is just what kind of killed him in this outing, pushed the pitch count up because the way he was going, he had some trouble. Got some base runners on via the walk, but he was able to get some ground balls to get out of those jams. But unfortunately, in that 6th inning, that's when things looked like it started to come apart there as the Pirates put a 3 spot up on him. Came out, Drew Smith tried to limit some of the damage. Unfortunately, his command was a little off in this game. Did give up a run, so that's how the Pirates got 3 runs in the 6th inning. So we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, and the Mets just do what they've been doing of late. They get down, but they're not out. They fight back for 3. They finally get to Martin Perez. He starts to lose control a little bit. He walked Alvarez with the bases loaded. Is that right? Am I right? I'm totally like off this point. Yeah, I believe Alvarez had the bases loaded walk. He did. Yes. Okay, so I'm not crazy. Uh, but the Mets put up a 3 spot in that inning. They fight right back. Maybe it would help if I actually put the game timeline up here. That might help me in my not good state, I would say. Yeah, so Alvarez walks, base load walk. The Mets are down 3-1. Then there's the Jeff McNeil, you want to call it a sac fly if you want. I don't know. But the little fly out to the right field, and Connor Joe, indecisive with what he wants to do with the ball, spikes it. So Lindor comes home to score. So now it's 3-2. And then the move that we were kind of expecting they would make, as Tyrone Taylor was announced as the designated hitter, coming up to the plate. The Pirates go to a righty, so the Mets are going to counter with DJ Stewart, and Stewart rips a double to tie the game at 3, and it's just continuing the hot streak of DJ Stewart, whose slash line looks crazy, just a barely above 200 hitter, but he has a pretty elite on base percentage and a pretty elite slugging percentage. So DJ Stewart continues to make his push for that last roster spot whenever JD Martinez comes up.
Yeah, we found our um, Kyle Schwarber, I would say. Lefty hitter, good on base percentage, hit for some pop, and doesn't hit. If he keeps this up, I mean, we have obviously seen that Stewart is able to make a little bit more contact than Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber probably a little bit more power. But if you look at the slash line right now, it's a Kyle Schwarber slash line.
That's very true. Kyle Schwarber, low batting average, high on base, obviously high slugging when you hit almost 50 home runs a year. So the Mets bullpen then settles down. You got the 3 big guns that came in to do the job. It started with Brooks Raley in the 7th inning, pitched inning zeros across the board except for 2. That was 2 strikeouts. And the same thing for Adam Ottavino in the 8th inning. No hits, no runs, had a walk, but he did get a strikeout. So the Mets, excuse me, that was that. I'm reading that. You see, this is how it's going to go today. That's how it's going to go. I'm going to say that's 3 because I was messing up that Alvarez thing pretty bad. So that's 3 mistakes I've already made. And we're not even, probably 15 minutes into this damn thing? No, we're not even 10 minutes into this thing. So I'm sure this is going to be a great, great episode to listen to for people. No, Adam Ottavino did the exact same thing as Brooks Raley, getting 2 strikeouts in that inning, including a pretty nasty pitch to Andrew McCutchen. I could tell from the stands that was an ugly, ugly hack he took to strike out. So Adam Ottavino, who his first 2 outings this year were pretty rough, but these last couple outings, he's been looking like the 2022 version of Adam Ottavino, which is going to be huge for this Mets bullpen that's proven to be very much a strength of this ball club so far this year.
Yeah, Adam Ottavino. Yeah, what you said, that the run in against Detroit was on that just awful breaking ball. I mean, that happens. That happens to the best of us. It happens to Edwin Diaz against Vinny Pasquantino, if I say his name correct. So it happens. But after that, after those first 2 outings, he has been his dominant self. Obviously, with all the other arms who are doing well and doing their job, we definitely get into that more in this series recap because we have more tremendous bullpen work in this series. It's such a deep and good bullpen right now. We also got somebody back. We probably will talk about it after the series, which is a pretty interesting move. But um, yeah, the bullpen has just been. I think the best strength right now is our bullpen, especially if you see how the Mets come back in games a lot, that the bullpen is able to just shut it down. It's a tremendous motivational boost to just, hey, we got the lead in the eighth, seventh, whenever we get leads, they just shut the door and say, oh, well, we got the lead. Now it's enough. And we got this. So that's a tremendous confidence boost for this team.
Well, the bullpen does their job. Like I said, they keep the Pirates in check in the seventh and eighth innings. So we go to the bottom of the eighth, and the Yankees bring, or the Yankees, that's four. Four. That's four. The Pirates bring in Aroldis Chapman, ex-Yankee. So, my mind's kind of right, but also very much wrong because since we're in 2024. Uh, he comes in and he gets the first out, and then he strikes out Jeff McNeil, but the ball gets away, so McNeil's able to get to first base. He then walks DJ Stewart. There were a couple pitches, close pitches that he wanted for strikes, maybe could have been strikes too. But either way, he walks DJ Stewart, and then the Mets pull a double steal. So now there are two runners in scoring position with one away, and Harrison Bader. I mean, we could probably call this the Harrison Bader series. Rips his first extra base hit down the line, a double to score two. And the Mets are in front, 5-3. Aroldis Chapman's day is done as he gets ejected for arguing with the home plate umpire. And then Brandon Nimmo comes up and hits a little chopper with the infield in to second base, but Bader, aggressive base running, is able to sneak in under the tags for the Mets. Are now up 6-3. Uh, quite an inning for Harrison Bader, and it's a guy who I had some questions about just because, yeah, we know he's a good defender, but he kind of lacks durability. It seems like he's always getting hurt. Not super clutch with the bat, but really this homestand, I guess you could say we could go back to the three games against Kansas City. He's put together some good play appearances. Obviously, he's playing that solid defense, and if he can stay healthy, which is the big question, maybe the Mets have found a really good player that they can just plug in on a daily basis at the bottom of the lineup.
100%. Also, it's noted that he is a bottom of the lineup hitter. He's our ninth hitter. So if he hits like 270 to 290, I think you take it. I don't really care about his power. If he's on base, he's a stolen base threat. So his OPS maybe a little bit on the lower side, and will probably be on the lower side. But he does a lot of things right for this ball club. He runs the bases extremely well. You mentioned him getting a great jump of third on that ground ball with the infield in by Nimmo. I mean, it's not an easy spot to score there, but he had a tremendous jump right off the contact, and he got in there. He sneaked in there, so that was great to see. Obviously, the clutch hit. And the durability, I think it's also part of how he plays the game. He plays the game really hard. He goes after every ball. He runs into walls when he needs to. He's same with Lagares, who always was it's seen as not durable, but he also got a lot of injuries. You know, jamming his toe against the wall when he ran into a wall. It's kind of like you take that a little bit with the way Harrison Bader plays the game, and hopefully he does stay healthy because the defense alone uh, helps you and your ball club tremendously.
So the Mets go to the top of the ninth. They bring in Edwin Diaz and does allow a walk, but does the job, shuts the door. So the Mets win the opening game of this series 6-3. Call it the Harrison Bader game. Like I said, you could call it the Harrison Bader series just because of the way he played in this entire series. So that brings us to Tuesday night, where it was a matchup between Jared Jones and Jose Quintana. And it was another pitcher's duel yet again. Same thing with Katana. He did get into some trouble, but was able to work around it. He went 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, which was earned, 3 walks, and the 4 strikeouts. So that's kind of been basically what Katana has been giving you this year. So, just a typical Jose Katana start. But Jones for the Pirates looked really, really good. He went 5 innings, which was a big question after the game. Just the 1 hit, The zeros across the board, no runs, no walks. He had 7 strikeouts, so a very very good outing for Jones. And like I said, a bit of a controversy at 59 pitches. They took him out. Um, Derek Shelton explained himself after the game. They played the clip before Wednesday afternoon's game. It's just the way that organizations do things nowadays, especially ones like the Pittsburgh Pirates, where they want to try to keep these young arms healthy and whatnot. But is there a little bit too? Is there too much of this going on? Is it a little bit too extreme for a guy to get pulled? Just no, because I always view it like they said, no, he just the 5 innings, 5 innings, that's it. I was always more of a pitch count guy rather than innings guys. So what's your
Yeah,
take on that? Do you value the do you think there should be innings limits or should it really be more of a pitch count limit per outing?
I think I don't necessarily mind innings limits, but if I mean he had 57 pitches in his outing right now. If it was a like you said a 80 pitch count outing, I would say yeah it's fair, but it was 57 pitches. I mean, what's the difference between throwing 57 pitches in 5 innings or uh, I mean, normally let me rephrase that. Normally, you can have 5 innings with around 80 pitches, so to speak. So, what's the difference between him throwing 80 pitches in this game and maybe him being able to go 6 or 6 and 2/3, or maybe even 7 or 5? That's one thing I wonder because they before the game they already said that they are going 5. So there was talk during the broadcast that go that he might end up going 5, and eventually they didn't turn away from their plan before the game. But yeah, what I said, it's one thing that I wonder. What's the difference between going 7 innings on 80 pitches and 5 innings on 80 pitches? If I think you could easily justify him getting a 6th inning with that pitch count. So it was. I don't mind necessarily innings limits. I think he's a young arm for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think they know the Pittsburgh Pirates that with Paul Skeens and Jared Jones, they're probably not 100% there to be a playoff ball club right now. Maybe it's a little bit early, but I didn't think I watched a playoff team in the Pittsburgh Pirates in this series. So,
Particularly Connor Joe.
well, Connor Joe had a good hitting. He has a good hitting year so far, but
Base
Connor
running in their
Joe,
defense,
Connor Joe was a good Met this series, and that's all. That's all I have to say about Connor Joe. Sorry for the guy, but yeah, he helped us in some big moments with the throw and with the terrible base running play to get Quintana out of that 1st inning. So yeah, but that's about that's, that's about the innings limit. I think it was a little bit weird. I think it would be easily justified to get one more inning of Jones. And uh, I thought his comments were pretty, you know, uh, maybe a bit too nice. If I was out there and yeah, he said that it was all fine, part of the plan, but yeah, I wanted the pitcher to say, well, I had one more inning in me easily because he probably had.
So pitches and strikes. For comparison, because both stars went 5 innings in this game. Jones threw 59, 50 for strikes. Quintana threw 93, 53 for strikes. So
Almost the same amount of strikes.
yes, but someone threw about 40 more pitches than the other.
Yes,
but with
but
Jose,
that's what Quintana does. I mean, the guy obviously didn't have his best stuff, and again, he was able to limit the damage. And um, if you look at Quintana, I think that's the main part why he's so underrated because he's a true pitcher. He limits damage. I saw a tweet from Anthony DiComo that in 94% of his starts he allowed 3 runs or less. sorry, 94% of his starts he went 5 innings, and in 88% of those starts he allowed 3 runs or less. So he keeps you in the ball game, and um, that's honestly pretty neat to have out of a starter who we don't necessarily pay that much, considering all the other amounts of money that you give out on starting pitching. So it's a tremendous deal so far. And again, he does it again.
Well, with Quintana going 5 innings, the Mets were looking to get a little length out of their bullpen, so they went to the new bullpen savior, I guess we could call him, Reed Garrett. It went 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, no runs, 6 strikeouts. So he got all his outs via the strikeout. He now has 17 strikeouts out of the bullpen this year for a guy who, well, we've harped on this pretty much from the beginning of this podcast. A guy I didn't really value a whole lot just because it was a journeyman guy who hadn't proven a whole lot, especially at the major league level. And a couple of outings he got with the Mets last year, it was one good, but then the next three were pretty bad with walks, whatever. But Reed Garrett looks like a totally different pitcher now. And he was talking post game, talking about just chatting up with guys like Edwin Diaz and Adam Ottavino. We know how good their sliders can be, and the slider's been working for Reed Garrett. The splitter's also been really, really good for him this year too. And obviously, you mix in a high 90s fastball. If he keeps it up, I mean, the Mets. We talked about, maybe the Mets found something with some other guys on this team, but perhaps Reed Garrett, going back to last year, was the sneakiest pickup of them all.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we joke a lot on the show so far of your view of Reed Garrett before the season, but I think nobody would have expected this out of Reed Garrett. Uh, 31 batters he faced, 17 strikeouts. I mean, that's a crazy stat. That's even better than Edwin Diaz in 2022, if I'm correct with his strikeout rate. Um, Tremendous how uh, I also said this on earlier podcasts. His secondary stuff was probably always decent, but it's now out of this world, and he used it more, and he used his fastball less, which is still a pretty good pitch. As you say, you mix in a fastball because that's actually what he's done. He's thrown his slider more than his fastball. So it's, yeah, it's a. I don't think the Mets necessarily expected to find this in Reed Garrett. I think he just worked tremendously hard, adjusted his pitch arsenal, probably with help from our big pitching guru, Jeremy Hefner. But I think nobody necessarily expected this kind of run for Reed Garrett. And another time where he's now came in with a 1 run deficit. So he's not the long man anymore. That's that's gone. He is a middle relief arm.
Well, he did his job holding the Pirates to nothing, so it's a 1 run game going to the bottom of the seventh, and that's when the Mets started to strike. They got 2 runners on, 1 out. Julie Wendell came in for Brett Beatty, who was experiencing hamstring tightness. The Mets say that's nothing too serious. They expect him to get back in the lineup in this Dodger series, this upcoming Dodger series. So Julie Wendell comes in, hits a double down the left field line. Lindor scores. We're tied at 1 apiece. And then it started to get a little weird because the Mets got their second run. They took the lead on a balk. Jeff McNeil was at the plate, and we kind of saw it too. It was pretty obvious. The pitcher Jose Hernandez, he was leaning in, and then he was starting to come back like he was going to get set, but he stopped halfway through and then finished the set. So the Mets get a run off a balk. So Alonso scores from third, and then Jeff McNeil looks like classic Jeff McNeil, just shooting the ball down the left field line for an RBI double. The Mets take a 3-1 lead. So the Mets do it yet again late in the game. They are able to put a 3 spot up on the Pirates bullpen.
Yeah, it's tremendous, and uh, kudos to Quintana and Reed Garrett for keeping this game close because they gave the Mets the chance to come back in the later innings. And Joey Wendell, kudos to him too. He didn't have a great start to the season, but he went 2 for 4 in his other start, and now came through with Beatty getting hurt with a big RBI double. So he's starting to adjust to his role and doing his thing. and everybody helps. That's one thing I wrote on my notes. Everybody does something to help this ball club win right now, and I mean that's what a team does. It's a true team effort. This day it was Joey Wendell and Jeff McNeil. The day before it was DJ Stewart, who is a platoon slash bench guy. Wednesday we're going to talk about, but there's another guy who had some big clutch hits, who is not necessarily in the everyday lineup, but getting his playing time. So kudos to those guys coming through, and kudos to the Mets and their analytical department to give those guys enough at bats to be able to be productive.
So with the Mets bullpen not having their big guns available, they turn to Jorge Lopez and Drew Smith to pitch the eighth and ninth, and they do the job well. Lopez pitched an inning, got a strikeout. Drew Smith finishes off with his first save of the season, pitching an inning and two strikeouts. So the Mets get the 3-1 win over the Pirates. They are officially over 500 at 9-8, and feeling good going into a Wednesday afternoon matinee, which saw former Philly Billy Falter get the start for the Pirates, and the Mets went with Luis Severino in a bit of a drastic, difference in pitching styles, I would say.
Definitely, it is Bailey Falter, not Billy Falter. So that's
Did I
five.
say Billy? I meant Bailey.
You said Bailey. You
So
said
that's
Billy.
five.
Five.
That's five. Well, fitting for the fifth episode. Could be five mistakes by me.
Yeah,
So
if you are able to keep it at five, I doubt that.
yeah, I very much doubt that as well. So so Luis Severino in this outing, 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run. It was unearned though. 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Obviously, the past couple outings, walks are a little bit of an issue. Just getting deep in the counts, bringing up the pitch count. He was able to get six, so the first time he's gotten six solid innings this year. But a 2.14 ERA. Obviously, the WHIP is probably a little high than we would like it, but um, no, Andy Martino just wrote an article for SNY talking about how he was tipping his pitches with the Yankees last year. They knew it. Everyone knew it. Like even showing the base coaches the ball, so you can relay that to the hitter pretty easily. But Severino looks like, at least for now, he's cleaned up a lot of that stuff, and he's putting together a solid couple. He's put together a couple solid starts here for the New York Mets.
100%. And Timmy Picks I think, mostly seen that his fastball is not getting. He gets swings and misses on his fastball. They're late on his fastball. Last year, that fastball had more velocity and it got rocked. So right now, he's a little bit lower in velo than he was last year, but it doesn't get rocked, and it's actually been back to his old self if you look at the slash line against that pitch. So that's for me is it's the big pitch and a big return for Luis Severino. And another great start. His whip is also pretty high because of that first outing. I think after that first outing, if you erase that first outing, his whip will be fine. But 12, 11 hits in 5 innings, yeah, that's a whip over two. So he's easily, slowly getting back to a little bit of a more normal whip. So I take that into account.
So the Pirates took a 1-0 lead. The Pirates got the lead or struck first in this series in every single game, and were not able to win. So just the comeback Mets, that's their thing. On a little kind of, excuse me, Brian Reynolds single that Henry Davis scored on. But the Mets came right back on the Marte 2-run homer to take the lead. And from there, it was pretty smooth sailing for the Mets. And you talk about a guy who was kind of like DJ Stewart, gets some occasional playing time, mostly against left-handed pitching for the most part. And that's Tyrone Taylor, who went 3 for 4 in this game with 2 RBIs. And just the thing with Taylor, the reputation, not a guy who works a lot of deep counts at the plate, swing. He's a free swinger, all that stuff, but we've talked about before on this podcast. He is really putting together some really good, long, solid at bats, and I have to give credit to him for the work, and you got to give credit to Chavez and his hitting staff.
100%. He's still an aggressive hitter. Still doesn't walk a lot, but getting a little bit in better counts, not chasing as much. as he probably did. By the way, I loved that Mendoza left him in against the right-hander in that inning because in earlier we saw that they went with DJ Stewart, and today they stayed with Tyrone Taylor. Tyrone Taylor has actually been better against right-handers than left-handers so far this season. So I like that he came through. Big two-out RBI knock, three-hit game. I mean, um, you praise someone who's having a good day with getting those at bats against a pretty tough. I know Bednar is having an awful time of it, but I still think he's a pretty solid arm to have in your bullpen. I would take him even with his high ERA right now. If the Pirates want to get rid of Bednar, we can trade Tonking, who is not that good for us so far. So. Oh shit! I spoiled my name for the end of for after the show. We got Tonkin back, everybody. You probably already knew.
But yeah,
But
so oh, go ahead.
yeah, another player who's not getting a lot playing time is Zach Short, who had a walk in front of the Marte home run and made two terrific plays in the fourth. One, that quick throw to Lindor that he couldn't turn because Zach Short played that really well, and the other where he had to come in and had also made a very quick throw to first. It's not necessarily seen on box scores what he did, but those were two big moments for us. Two good defensive plays, as well as he does something like everybody that does something for this team right now to help win ball games. He did it too. So I would love to mention Zach Short as well in what he did for this team in the win.
Yeah, so Tyrone Taylor gets the two-run RBI single in the sixth. The Mets go up 4-1. Next batter is Harrison Bader, who launches one to left field for a two-run homer. So the Mets are up 6-1 over the Pirates, and obviously that was more than enough for the bullpen to work with. Jorge Lopez, another shutdown inning. Jake Diekman, a shutdown inning, and it was finished off by Grant Hartwig. But the Mets tacked on some more runs before the final out was made. Alonso scored on a fielder's choice. Brandon Nimmo drives in 2 runs with a single in the eighth inning. So the Mets just add insurance to the insurance, and the Mets finish it off in the ninth to get a 9-1 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. So just your biggest overall takeaway from this series sweep over the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I think the biggest takeaway is for me is watching the Mets right now is when they are down. I I still have a good feeling about this game. While early in the season, obviously, when we were 0-5, you were watching. I think even in the Atlanta series, I still had that feeling from we're going to lose this game. This will be another close game. We will lose. And right now, I really noticed it with me watching the game. I was just relaxed. I wasn't necessarily tense. If we went down in the game, I wasn't necessarily thinking, "Oh well, here we go again." I was just, and I keep watching, and we will figure it out. We will get this game, and that's such a cool feeling to have and to watch your favorite baseball team just in ease, thinking we got this. So that's for me as a fan watching this team was the biggest takeaway. And we did it 3 times. We have 7 comeback wins right now, which is pretty darn good if you have 10 wins when you get 7 comeback wins. And also good that we ended the game with a nice, easy win as well. So we could go to Diekman and Hartwig to finish it off without a lot of stress, having Diaz and Ottavino and Rayleigh now 2 games in a row off for a difficult Dodger series, which we'll probably get into next.
Yeah, obviously early in the season. So I mean, we've seen them start really really well before. If you think of 2018 when they were 11-1 and everything was smooth sailing, and then it just all went downhill from there. Think about
We still have
2020.
June.
Yeah, think about 2021 at the trade deadline. They were in a good spot. They got Baez, and then after that, it just went downhill from there. But there's just a little bit of a different feel, I would say, with this ball club so far. Whether it holds up for a full 162, who knows? But obviously, being back over 500, starting a big series with the Dodgers out in LA, West Coast trip to get the Giants as well. But that'll be a lot of fun. So you're raising your hand. You have a question for the class?
I have a question for you
Oh,
because I have one thing I noticed on Baseball Savant is that all of our, I mean, pitchers who pitched in this series who did pretty well have a pretty bad expected ERA, and I was wondering if you look at that and have any concerns about that. I have my opinion. I will share it after yours. But I see Quintana has a 6.54 expected ERA. Hauser has a 5.13 expected ERA. And Severino has a 3.91 expected ERA. So all three are a lot higher than their regular ERAs. So I was wondering how you look at that.
it's probably like I would think that just all the traffic that they've been having is probably a big factor into that. Um, I mean, I don't know how how they calculate expected ERA. Like I said, I'm not a math guy, but you figure what you talked about on this podcast. If there's anything that's been a bugaboo for this Mets pitching staff, particularly the starters, is just all the walks, the traffic on the base pass. But if they're able to generate ground balls or get strikeouts when they need them to, then I feel like it kind of, I don't want to say eliminates that, but maybe it kind of evens out almost. Um, but that's just my opinion. That's definitely not a boisterous opinion or one that needs to be valued at a high level. But what do you think about that?
Well, I think it depends on the pitcher as well. If you look at Jose Quintana, he's a guy who always has traffic on the base pad, and he has a resume of, besides having maybe a little bit of a higher whip or a little bit of more hard contact, he's a guy who consistently keeps his ERA lower than his expected ERA. So for him, I I don't care at all, and I think it's also worth noting it's calculated on hard hit rates, and so the how the contact of the bat is, the launch angle, hard hit, the exit velo, and obviously the walks with it. But if you look at the defense the Mets provided, it's obviously an help that keeps your real ERA lower than your expected ERA, as maybe hard hit balls are tracked down by Harrison Bader in center field, for example. We didn't even mention Harrison's Bader great catch on Tuesday. Now I think about it, because that was a tremendous catch on a very hard hit ball with a tremendous route. So that probably, I think I looked it up. It was like a 760 expected batting average on that ball. So that's a high expected batting average, and that's obviously taking into account with the expected ERA. But yeah, Harrison Bader is there and he tracks it down. So that's that's also helpful. And with Hauser, it's the same thing actually. He's a sinker ball guy. He gets the ground balls, but at times those balls are hit fairly hard. But it's still a ground ball, and our infield defense is pretty solid. So I'm not necessarily concerned um, with those three guys that they're expected. And I'm a Statcast guy. I like watching at Statcast, but I think you have to look deeper into it than just, hey, your expected ERA is higher.
Well, a very interesting sabermetric conversation here on the Queens Connection podcast. Before we jump into the Dodgers series, let's talk about Tuesday in the minor leagues because at each level, the Mets threw out a pretty, I don't want to say stud arm because we don't know how these guys are going to develop, but some very highly touted arms. We'll work our way up as we usually do. So we'll start in St. Lucie, and Cade Morris got to start for the St. Lucie Mets, who was a third round pick last year. He just went 4 2/3, with 2 runs that were allowed. There were 2 walks, but 5 strikeouts in the outing. He has a 1.86 ERA. His whip is a little high. It's a little over 1.3, I believe. It's 1.34 at the moment. So not like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. But you tend to like have your stars. It's like golf. The lower it is, the better it is. So um, Cade Morris, like I said, third round pick out of Nevada last year, just 21 years old. Um, So maybe an arm that's we could go back to your rant on top 30 prospects. I don't know if Cade is cracking MLB Pipeline's top 30 at the moment, but
Oh,
it's an arm that it could be like a Christian Scott, whatever, who probably wasn't on the top 30 list when he got drafted or the year after he was drafted, and but now everyone's talking about how much Christian Scott can have an impact on the team this year. So maybe Cade Morris is on the same trajectory.
Kate Morris. I mean, you're not getting a third round selection for nothing. So there's obviously things that the Mets liked about Kate Morris. Um, he's off to a pretty decent start, I would say. 1.81, you said, right? ERA. So um, it's pretty neat to see, like you mentioned, that even a guy like Kate Morris, who is not probably not on many people's radar right now, and a little bit rightfully so, he isn't close to being helpful for the Major League Ball Club. So it's definitely a wait and see project for Kate Morris. So, but he could be a guy like you mentioned who quietly will kind of rise through the prospect list, getting a better look every single year, maybe every time the new list comes out. So it's an interesting arm to keep an eye on.
Another pitcher from the 2023 draft class was pitching for Brooklyn. That was Brandon Sproat, who made his second start of the season. We talked about Brandon's potential on one of our last episodes, but another solid outing for him. 4 innings, 3 hits, just 1 run. That came on a home run, but 5 strikeouts in this outing to go with 2 walks. So just a little bit over a base runner per inning. That's not too bad. But another good outing for Sproat, who the Mets drafted before, then he didn't sign. So then the Mets drafted him again, and obviously they just love these Florida arms. They really do. Christian Scott, Florida. Sproat, Florida. So they're really dipping into the SEC, particularly in Gainesville. So I don't know. Maybe it's a blue and orange thing.
Maybe it's that you said it because I wasn't aware that they drafted a lot of Florida guys. I know Jacob deGrom is from Florida, but I'm not that into the
You're not that into the
USA.
college scene.
No, no, exactly. So, and also not necessarily big on where they are coming from. I don't really care where they come from. So that's maybe a little bit different, but a good outing. 66 pitches, 42 strikes is what I saw. So that's very promising for a guy who has his fair share control issues, which probably is his main going to be his main issue because he has swing and miss stuff. He has great stuff. So if he's able to control, I think you have a very valuable arm for the future in Brandon Sprout. But that's the main question mark. So seeing an outing where 2 walks in 4 innings isn't necessarily low, but 66 pitches, 42 strikes is a very good rate for a guy who is noted, yeah, who's has some control issues or is known for some control issues. So promising outing.
Well, another promising outing came for Double A Binghamton. I guess we could say 2 guys from this game. One's not really, I would say, a prospect, but provides major league pitching depth. And that was Max Crank, who made a rehab start. He went 2 and 2/3, no hits, no runs, just 1 walk. Struck out 6 in this outing after having a little bit of a rough go with when he was first getting back on the mound with St. Lucie. So maybe he's rounding the form a little bit. Made 1 start in spring training, and that was it. So working his way back. But they had Blake Tidwell come out of the bullpen in this game, and he pitched really, really well. We gave him 3 hits, 2 runs that were both earned, 3 walks, but 10 strikeouts in this outing. Obviously, we know about Tidwell, another SEC arm. He went to Tennessee though, so it's not Florida. Um, but Blake Tidwell coming out of the bullpen for this game to be the bulk guy, if you want to say that. So I was a little interested to see that happen. Obviously, it was probably his day to start, but when you get a major league rehab guy coming down, that's gonna kind of take he's gonna get the main focus, I would say. But the fact that Tidwell was able to come out of the bullpen and didn't really screw him up, pitched really really solid. Uh, Something to keep an eye on because I know there was some question down the line if he could continue to start when the Mets first drafted him out of college. Uh, but I think right now, anyway, he's going to project as a starter. But just the fact he came out of the bullpen, gave him 5 innings, struck out 10. It's eye opening. It catches your eye, that's for sure.
The 10 strikeouts definitely catches your eye. It's not the first minor league guy who struck out 10 or more so far this season. So a lot of promise there. I think it's more because Max Granick, you probably give Max Granick a pitch count. He's probably more used to being a starter, Max Granick. So give him more of the, with the rehab start to be more comfortable the way he can prepare. It's probably more that than necessarily Blake did well. But a tremendous outing, 10 strikeouts, just 3 hits. Um, another, I mean, maybe potentially top rotation arm in Blake Tidwell since we drafted him. So yet on a normal Tuesday, yet another big arm, and we aren't done because we have one left, probably the biggest arm in our system.
Yes, that would be Christian Scott, who got to start for Syracuse on Tuesday. Five and a third, 3 hits, 2 runs. Those 2 runs were both home runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. So Scott continues to put together some good outings. Obviously, you'd like the home run ball to come down a little bit, but it is what it is. Maybe it's just the ballpark because they're on the road. I believe they're playing Charlotte, if I look up correctly. Yes, I believe it is Charlotte. Um, but Scott is probably the closest prospect arm to being major league ready. I think people, once we get going, if guys get hurt, they're going to want Christian Scott to be the guy to get called up, not a Lucchese or a Max Kranick, whatever. But if Scott continues to put together really, really outings, maybe the Mets will give him the chance to jump those guys in the pitching rotation depth chart.
I think he's extremely close. I think he's pitching so well in AAA, which isn't necessarily a good pitching league. We saw that last year with a lot of guys who came up with high ERAs in AAA or good slash lines in AAA and not necessarily doing great. Um, I mean, Buto, it was an example, had a pretty high AAA ERA. Lucchese, who did well for us in the major leagues with a good ERA, had a high ERA of a fairly or a higher ERA in AAA. So it's not a necessarily easy spot to pitch, and he does tremendously. I heard on the broadcast. I don't know if you heard it yesterday when Steve Gelbs talked about Christian Scott, that he was ambushed on his fastball for 2 home runs early for the 2 solo shots, and then he completely changed and adjusted on the fly using his secondary pitches differently and sneaking in that fastball on other counts. So that shows um, it shows maturity, and it shows how he doesn't get oh, I'm getting ambushed, this sucks. No, think, take it easy, readjust, and he gave them a heck of a performance after that.
Oh, he sure did. And obviously, Christian Scott is probably the pitcher to keep an eye on the most right now for as a impact the major league kind of prospect.
Yes.
All right. So obviously off day today for the Nets as we record this on Thursday, the day before the Dodgers series. So uh, there is some minor league baseball to be watched if you want to. If you have an MLB.TV subscription, this is not a plug. We don't get any money for this, so don't worry about it. Uh, but the Brahma Ponies have a doubleheader day. I'll probably watch that one. I believe the second game is actually going to be aired on SNY, which is going to be very
Yes.
cool. As I'm very friendly with Jacob Wilkins, the Binghamton Brahma Ponies broadcaster, so it'll be cool to get his TV time. I told him when they did the spring breakout game, the prospect game, that he should have been him doing it because obviously a lot of these guys played for Binghamton last year, so why not have the guy who was broadcasting the games knows these guys to do it on SNY? But whatever, I don't get paid to make those decisions. But so I'll be watching Binghamton. You told me you were probably gonna be keeping an eye on Brooklyn tonight.
I'm going to watch Brooklyn because of Noah Hall, last year's seventh round pick, who's off to a terrible start. I think he has an ERA over 20 right now in his first two organizational outings. I think he allowed 10 runs in four and a third so far. So I hope for a bounce back outing for Noah Hall, and I'm definitely, we can definitely going to talk about this in our next podcast to see what we think. You will probably watch the Binghamton game. I probably watch the Brooklyn game, so you get our inside look of these prospect goals. Just kidding, people. We just like baseball. Uh,
Because we're
and
we're losers with no life, so we watch minor league baseball when the Mets don't play.
Exactly. Or we are great fans and wanted to know everything we can know about all things Mets, which
I think I know a lot of people that would say the former rather than the latter there.
I don't care what a lot of people say.
All right, well, let's do a quick look at this Dodger series coming up. That begins Friday night, a 10:10 start on the East Coast. So, uh, if, if I
So
make
we're
it,
gonna hear all the American people. Oh, it's so late. Boo boo boo. We have to stay up until 1 a.m. Boo boo boo. I can't wait for all those tweets. Oh, look how good I am that I'm up until 1 a.m. to watch the Mets. Well, something that I do on 4 p.m. times and watching nights when I'm not. I have to be awake anyway, so it's not necessarily a good kudos on my back. But yes, on 4 p.m. games, it's the same time for you on the West Coast game. So stop yawning and stop moaning about uh, the late West Coast trips. Go ahead, Andrew, because you are a great sleeper guy. So you're probably gonna moan about late night starts. Go ahead.
well, thank you that you gave me the blessing to continue this show, and now you've gotten off your soapbox. So the Friday night game, it says Sean Manaea is going to get the start for the Mets. I know the Dodgers are kind of questions about when Yamamoto is going to pitch. MLB.com currently has him listed for Friday, so we'll see if that's when Yamamoto gets the ball. Saturday, it's Jose Buto against TBD for the Dodgers, and Sunday, Adrian Hauser against TBD for the Dodgers. So, Mister Series Predictor, what say you for this 3 game weekend series against the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Uh, I thought you were gonna moan about late game starts first, but oh well.
No, I don't want to
Got
do. I don't want to deal with that headache with you. We're already kind of pushing the limits here for timing and everything. So
uh, what was the question again? Oh yeah, series prediction. Sorry. Stuff where you don't know who the pitchers are for the Dodgers. So
we didn't really
um,
know the pitchers for the Pirates either, and you still got that right. So just to pump your tires.
yeah, yeah, that probably shows that it was maybe a little bit lucky on my part, more than knowledgeable. But hey, I take it. Um, I want to say I want to say 2-1. Yeah, I'm gonna say 2-1. The Dodgers are struggling a bit. I know they're still obviously a pretty good team. I I have a little bit of a hope we win the first game and beat up Yamamoto because he didn't want to pitch for us. So gonna say we win the first game against Yamamoto. I hope that more maybe than my necessarily mind says, but it's a little bit more of the heart than the mind right now. So I say 2-1. We beat up Yamamoto and we win with Adrian Hauser on the mound because the sinker ball will work in the warmer weather.
Well, I guess I'll go the opposite of you. If the Mets can just take 1 game from the Dodgers, I'll be very happy about that. We go to San Francisco and take care of business there. So if the Mets just get 1 win in this Dodger series, I'll be happy. Just don't get swept. That's all I want. Don't get swept by the Dodgers. He said the Dodgers are not playing great baseball. They lost a couple to the Nationals, and obviously the Nationals are an up and coming team, but not quite there yet, I would say. Um, but if the Mets can go there, just win 1 game, I'll be happy with that. And then if they can, basically, all in all, if they can do this West Coast trip with a 3-3 record, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Every West Coast trip and we go 3-3 is you take that, especially if you face the Dodgers and the Giants, who I still think are better than they have shown so far. You take that. It's always a tough road trip to go out on a different time zone, and that's not me moaning or anything, but to me. I'm in a small country where we don't have different time zones for different spots in the same country, so I probably think that it has some issues if you go from time zone to time zone, but you are more adept to give your opinion about that. So
Oh, I think I'll save that for another time. Yeah, we could. There's another West Coast trip to whine and complain about, so I'll save that for then because they still have to go play the Padres, and you know, they don't go to Oakland. They went to Oakland last year, but I know they still got the Padres. They go to Seattle. They go to Seattle. That's gonna suck too. So, oh well.
yeah,
Oh well. Well, I
okay.
can complain about that in another time. There's a lot of episodes to do that. So I will complain about West Coast start times another time as we wrap things
You
up here
got a
in the
bit, you got a bit ambushed by me. You got a bit,
yeah.
by my statement about Americans voting, and now all of a sudden you're such a good, good regular American citizen.
Whatever. It's all right. I don't really care. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Queen's Connection podcast, a production of Patent Sports Creative. We're on social media. You can just search the Queen's Connection. It'll pop right up. You can also find links to the social media pages in descriptions, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. Go to the episode description. It's all right there. Corne, thank you, sir, for not making too much fun of me for my mess ups.
5, you kept it at 5.
That,
So,
that's
uh,
that's
so,
pretty good. With the way I started, that's pretty damn good.
yeah, you got it going. You eventually got the knack of it. So, good job, Andrew.
I mean, I'm like Carlos Carrasco. The first thing is all the one that always just gets to me, and then I settle in after that. Except last year,
Exactly.
he didn't settle in at all last year.
No, no, but hey, it helps if you settle in. If pitchers settle in, they can still do a good job and help the ball club.
Well, I,
So
I
good job.
I looked like I was going to not be able to give him 3 innings. I gave him 5, so that's pretty damn good. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Enjoy this weekend series against the Dodgers. We'll talk to you on Monday before they take on the San Francisco Giants.